This is Passive Cash Flow for Life. We hope you get some value out of these Teaching Tuesdays we put together. And if you find value and you want to move forward, then, obviously there's options available for you. So a lot of times when people look at multifamily, if they're not in multifamily to begin with, it can be a little bit intimidating, right? So most people are used to seeing, whatever the average price for a home is in your area, a couple $100,000, $100,000, $500,000, whatever it may be. And then you start looking at some of these larger apartment buildings, 40 million, 50 million, $60 million, $10 million. They're big numbers, and myself included, and Nicole even included, that's all kind of scary in the very beginning because you're not really sure. It's intimidating. So for people that don't have any real estate experience, I will tell you that everyone that I know that has been successful in multifamily wishes that they had gotten into multifamily while they were doing single family or gotten into multifamily faster. Single family is fantastic. I did it. Nicole has done it and she still does it. So this is about multifamily. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So small multifamily, right? So what does small multifamily mean? Technically, right, the actual definition of commercial residential real estate, which is multifamily, starts at 5 units and above. So a fourplex, you can still get a residential loan. It is multi-unit, right? But you can get a residential loan with it. So 4, 3, a duplex, and then obviously a single family. 5 and above, you get a multifamily loan, which, to be honest with you, sometimes is easier than getting a residential loan because they look at the income of the property as well as you, obviously. So when we talk about small, it can be, a duplex, 3, 4, all the way up to 30, somewhere in there. It can be a little bit bigger if you want, but, for the sake of this demonstration, we're really going to talk about somewhere between 2 and 30 and anywhere in between. So as I mentioned, loans for multifamilies are generally easier to come by. When you get into the bigger multifamily loans, you need something called a sponsor, and understand where the bank is coming from, right? So they're going to give you $5 million to buy this 50-unit building, and they want to make sure they get their money back. So they're saying, listen, if you don't have experience, you need to have a sponsor, which is somebody that will be on the deal with you that basically has experience, right? Has done 50-unit level properties before. With the smaller ones, you don't usually need a sponsor. So that's kind of an advantage also with starting small. You need less experience. Obviously, the numbers are smaller, so there's less risk. In terms of value or the customer, a lot of residents prefer the smaller buildings. They feel like it's more intimate. They feel like it's more part of the community. Some people don't want to live in these huge high rises or the big community complexes with 200 and 300, units in the big parking lots and stuff like that. Those are great, but some people are more comfortable with a smaller unit. So there's definitely an advantage there if that's what you end up buying, because you've got kind of a select group of renters that specifically want the smaller buildings. And just by definition, there are more small buildings in any market than there are the bigger buildings, right? So if you're looking for a 10-unit, you're going to find a lot more 10 units in your market, or 5 units, or whatever it may be, than you will find 200, 300-unit properties, right? So there's more opportunity, and the more opportunity or more options you have, then the more options you have to find a better deal, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of this is just a numbers game, underwriting and looking at enough properties, you find one that actually works and is going to make you money. You can also do, I know they call it house hacking, for houses and stuff like that. We've had a couple of students, actually one that comes to mind, has a big place in Charlesville. Well, big. I think it's like 10 units or something like that. And when he bought it, oh, it's my cat. When he bought it, he lived in one of the apartments, one of the larger apartments, and him and his wife and his 2 kids still live there. But they've got all the other apartments that basically he lives off that income. He make, I can't remember right now, he's probably making like $8,500 a month or something like that. So it's, it's a good living, right? And he gets to live for free. So you can live in one and rent the rest. That's an opportunity. All right. So we're going to discuss three, I guess, advantages of small multifamily. And if you want to learn more specifically about this topic, right, Nicole writes a weekly article, if you will, that goes on to our Facebook group and it goes on to our LinkedIn. So here are the Facebook/groups, multifamily passive income for life, passive cash flow for life. And then this is this as well. And if you want at the end, I can cut and paste this into the chat so you guys can just click on it. If you go and join the group, it is a pseudo private group. So you just have to say, hey, James, I want to join, here's my name or whatever it is. And then the next day, either I or the VA kind of lets you in. So it's public, but we want to be able to at least screen who comes in. So those are two options for you. Okay, so again, more comfortable for many people when they get started, just because the larger ones can be overwhelming. A lot of people already have experience with residential, so maybe they bought one or two or bought their own home, or maybe they've done a couple of flips or have a small rental portfolio, whatever it is. So the thought of buying 5 and 10 units is easier to get your head around, and you come with more confidence to be able to do that. So that's more comfortable for you. And then due diligence, for those of you that don't know what due diligence is you look at a property and you look at the financials, and maybe you go look at it, and then you put in something called a letter of intent, which is kind of like a contract, but it's not, they can't enforce it. You're basically saying, hey, you know something, this is about where I want to be. And then the owner comes back and says, well, this is about where I want to be. And you just kind of negotiate on a piece of paper, if you will. And once that is established and a contract is signed, then you have something called a due diligence period, which is basically the time that you have 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, however long it is, to basically inspect every single part of the property that you want to, right? And make sure that, what you're buying is what you think you're buying, right? To make sure that it kind of matches and stuff like that. The roofs look good. Let me make sure that the roofs actually are good. Or, the financials look good, but let me kind of see if they've got their bank statements to make sure what they have in their financials actually matches and stuff like that. So obviously on a smaller property, right, there's less units. So there's going to be less material to go through. So due diligence is not as overwhelming. And, just frankly, a lot of newer investors don't have the capital to buy something really big, and they may need to maybe buy a smaller property with a couple of friends or some other investors or whatever it is. You need less capital to get into it. And it's a much easier process, because then when you go to a slightly larger property, what you do is we call stacking, right? So you buy like a 5 or 10 unit. That goes well. You have a couple of investors, and then you go the next year or 6 months later, whatever it is, and you buy a 20 or 25 unit. And those investors or those friends that came with you on this first one are going to go, wow, this is awesome. And they're going to give you referrals, right? They're going to talk to their friends and go, wow, this is awesome. Joe really knows what he's doing. So, okay, great. The next time when Joe goes to buy the 30 unit, he's going to have, hey, I heard you did really well. Can I kind of join your group and be one of your investors? So in the beginning, it's a great way to start. Few investors needed. There's also generally less competition for some of the smaller units. So you can do really well there. And again, less competition. There's obviously more of them, so more selections. Small buildings make up the largest segment of the market. So I know we're kind of hammering this a little bit, but you'll find sometimes smaller buildings also, the MLS will actually list them, right? 4, 5, 6, 7 units and stuff like that. Usually if you get like 10 and above, then it's kind of you're rolling the dice, right? You might find it on MLS, or a small broker might actually have the property for you to sell. So when you get into that space, you might have to look at a couple of different options in terms of sourcing, or you can do what a lot of people do for single family, is buy a list and start marketing to that list to find people that are looking and are motivated to sell, right? And you can get some really good deals that way as well. There's a lot of duplexes, triplexes, quads, 5, 6 units everywhere, right? Some of them are built actually specifically that way. Some were kind of these large, huge homes from a while ago that someone said, hey, this is a great idea. Let's kind of chop it up into 4, 5, 6 units or whatever it is. So it's a lot easier to build those, if you will, or convert those. And that's why there's so many of them out there. And you can be a little bit more picky about not only what you buy, but also where you buy. And again, we mentioned this, you may not require a sponsor. They're easier to finance. And cap rates, for those of you that are not aware, I guess the easiest way to say it maybe is it's kind of a multiplier, right? So if a cap rate is X in a market, right, whatever the cash flow for that property is multiplied by that cap rate, and it gives you the value of the property, right? And it's kind of an inverse ratio. So the higher the cap rate, the lower the price of the property. The lower the cap rate, the higher the price of the property. So what you'll find in some of these smaller buildings and stuff like that is that the cap rates for those are going to be higher, right? So the price is going to be lower, and a lot of times you can get a better deal on something smaller than you could on something much bigger where the cap rate is a lot less. All right, so less risk, right? Less money that you have to invest for both you and your investors. We have bought stuff, very large properties, with just closing costs, right? No down payment, no bank loan, just the person carried back 100%, right? Which we don't recommend because you want a little equity in there. But deals like that are out there. They're not very common, but they are out there. And it's actually starting to become more common in the bigger spaces. Somebody just sold like a $650 million building. I think it was in New York, and the selling equity fund took back paper, which basically says they would sell or finance for like 350 million of that for like 5 years. So some of the bigger players are starting to do that. There's opportunities there. You'll find more of those opportunities for seller takebacks and stuff like that with smaller properties than you will with bigger, even though, like I said, the bigger ones are starting to kind of play in that area, but it's much more common that you'll find those in the smaller ones. Also, when you buy a property that's a little bit smaller, they're usually easier and faster to turn around. So Nicole and I buy what's called either a B level or a C level property, right? So there's A, top of the line, luxury, brand new, and then B, and C, and then D is a little bit more of kind of a war zone kind of thing. So we try and stay in that B and C space. And we like stuff with what we call hair on it, right? So we want stuff that needs to be fixed, because like if you're ever going to go rehab a house, right, to flip it, you want a house that needs to be rehabbed. Well, we want apartment complex that either they're not managed properly, or the tenant base is wrong, or they need to be rehabbed, whatever it may be. We look for those. So when we find those, a lot of times, if you have a smaller property, 30 units or less, you can basically turn it around and substantially increase your cash flow in a year or two, right? If you get to bigger properties, 100 units, 200 units and stuff like that, it may take you 2 years, 3 years, maybe even 4 years to totally turn the entire property, because there's just so many more units. So that's another advantage of the smaller properties. And if you buy smaller properties, let's say you want to buy 30 units in the first year, right? Maybe you don't want to buy 130 unit, maybe you want to buy 5, 6 units, right? You can kind of spread it out and stuff like that if you want to. Obviously, the advantage of multifamily is you get a lot of places, a lot of people under one roof, right? So you don't have to pay for one roof. But a lot of times, if you can't find that or whatever it is, then, 6 plexes, 4 plexes, whatever it is, a lot of people start that way. They kind of start their portfolio that way. And then you have one of two options. You keep them, which is what we do, or you can transition them into something larger, right? Through something called a 1031, or you can just sell them. So there's lots of different options there for you. Wow, did we blow through this? We did blow through this. So this is, I guess in terms of single family and multifamily, starting with multifamily, something smaller is really a really good idea. And then this is something that we're actually doing, and this is actually perfect if you're just starting off in multifamily. This is actually an incredible opportunity for you. We also have several people that are already coming that have been very successful doing this. So it's 4 days. If you're local, it's right up here at the Best Western Conference Center, right off 895. You can actually see it from the highway, so it's right down there. It's not in downtown Baltimore or anything. And what we're doing is we're, I guess, putting the two things together and giving one away for free, basically, right? So if you decide you want to come to the 4-day face-to-face, we will allow you to become a member of the Passive Cash Flow for Life online community, which means you get all 60 hours, 36 modules of all the stuff that we do. Or if you're like, you know, something like somebody just called me and said, hey, I can only make it on Saturday and Sunday. I'm like, well, great. You can follow along online, you know, for Friday or Thursday and Friday. And then when you show up on Saturday and Sunday, just kind of dovetail right in. So this is the actual link, right? It's passivecashflowforlife.com events/events. And you do have to put the www in front. And you can do one of two things. You can either make one payment for $19.97, or you can do 3 payments of $747, whatever you want to do. It's open to you. I did want to show you guys something that somebody just, all right, so this is, and I don't know if you guys have gotten this already, right? But this is basically about the boot camp, right? So right here, March 7th to 10th, all the different things in terms of finding markets, how to evaluate properties, how to dominate self-storage, if that's what interests you, how to run your property management companies, not your company, but running the property managers that run your properties, which we recommend to everybody. We don't run or we don't manage any of our own properties. We talk about mobile home parks, how to raise money, and then how to systematize your business. So on average, if you do it consistently, right? That's the key word there is consistently, right? It shouldn't take you more than 10 hours a week. If that's all you have, you can put that in. If you can only put 2 or 3 hours a week in, you can do it. It's just going to take you longer, but you do have to be consistent, right? You want to kind of build up that momentum and then keep the momentum going, if you will. And the other thing I wanted to show you was, because I know a lot of people are like, well, yeah, I'm not sure and stuff like that, which is totally fine. So this is, I'm not going to play this whole thing for you. It's like 5 minutes long, but I did want to show you just, I don't know. Can you guys hear that? Yep. Okay. So I'm just going to show you like a minute of the first part.
I feel I learned so much about, from the class, and it's much more than I originally expected. I expected a lot, but this is a whole lot more, even beyond my expectation.
This was a really great class. You get a lot of bang for your buck. If you didn't come, you miss out on a lot. Besides just doing the numbers, you kind of get an understanding of the legality part of it. It's a little hard to digest on that part, but you do, it's all tied together. You know that if I don't do this, I can go to jail. Jail's not a good place for anyone. But it was just really, really wonderful. The instructors they took their time.
All right. So, and then the last part I wanted to show, I mean, this guy, I mean, they come from all backgrounds. Emma's a traveling nurse, the woman that was just talking, the woman before her and her husband own a very successful HVAC business. Mike here, that's going to be at our meetup, is a very successful dentist. He is retired military. And there's, he is, I want to say he's a CFO for a company. I can't remember. I haven't talked to him in a little while. But I wanted to show you was Alex, who is a local guy that I talk to all the time. He's a phenomenal guy. Let me just find him for you here. Because he's going to give you his phone number, which I think is crazy. But if you want to call him and ask him about the class, he can do that. So here, it's like a minute long.
Of course.
Hi, my name's Alex Skolewski. I just want to say big thanks to Nicole and James for the multifamily class that they teach. It's a fantastic class. I took it first in 2018 before I owned any multifamily properties, and just the things that they taught about acquisition and management were fantastic. I've got about 120 units that I run, and the information that I learned from these guys was invaluable. Having it in person is fantastic, and it's just great information all around. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. My number is 240-401-9142. Text or WhatsApp is usually better. Since I am a full-time realtor and usually I'm preoccupied with that or my family, but if you text me, I'll try to get back to you or send me a message on WhatsApp. But yeah, I couldn't recommend these guys enough. It's definitely been life-changing. The information is great. You just have to apply it like anything. And And just want to say a big thank you to them for providing such a good important info that really helped me grow my portfolio. Thank you.
All right, so hopefully that made sense. Alex is just a phenomenal guy. When you recorded this for us and he sent it to me, I'm like, you put your phone number on there, right? And this is going to go out like nationally. And he's like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, all right. He says, if it gets out of control, we can edit it, right? We can take that part out. And you just put in my email address. And I told him, yeah, absolutely. Yes, we could definitely do that. So hopefully you guys can take advantage of it. I think it's a phenomenal opportunity. But totally up to you, whatever you want to do. So I guess, let's see, can I save this? Can I change it? Let me close this, and then I can stop sharing. And then we can take questions if you have any. And it doesn't have to be about small multifamily, it can be anything multifamily related. But anything about multifamily, if you'd like to just unmute, whatever you want to do is fine. You gotta have some questions because I ended early. We usually go for like 35, 40 minutes. Maybe once all the caffeine, I talk too fast or something.
I was starting to think you were from the north.
They talk
Oh,
slower
wait a
down in
minute, you are
Charlotte.
from.
Well, it's interesting. My parents are from Spain, and I don't know if you ever heard like a Spanish speaker talk. It's like, I mean, it's incredibly fast, and I think that's kind of where I picked it up. But
Hey, James, I had asked a question about the conference,
Okay.
whether you guys were going to record it.
So we are not going to record the physical conference, and I'll tell you why. When Nicole used to do it on her own by herself for 4 days, it was like 12-hour days, right? 7 in the morning because we did bonuses in the morning, bonuses in the evening, 7-hour days, with lunch and stuff like that for 4 days. And you'd walk out with so much information, you'd be like being fed with a fire hose, right? And I've told everybody this before, but my manual, which I still have, was about this thick. So what we did was right before COVID, I said, something, let's take it online because we're very well known around Baltimore, Washington, but we can't touch people nationally. So we did that. And I always laugh because Nicole's response was, oh, good, because I can't get enough into those 4 12-hour days. I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So everything that is in the live course is in the online course, plus we'd have to do probably 6 days of live to be able to get all that into everything that we do on the online course, which is why we kind of put them together. And that way you don't have to look at your manual like I did for the first several years. You can actually just go back and kind of watch the recordings and stuff like that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
What are some of the common mistakes that's made when people just start out looking for multifamily?
So the number one, well, 2 big mistakes that I see a lot of people, keep thinking of them 3. So 3 big mistakes that people do, right? Number one, I think that you have to, it's like anything, right? Anything in real estate, I believe, and Jan and Sharon are the residential experts. So I know I've heard them say this before as well. It's kind of a numbers game. You're going to have to go through a lot of deals to find one that works, at least to our very, very conservative underwriting, right? We have looked at deals and then called the broker back and say, hey, whatever happened? He goes, no, somebody actually bought it at that price. And the broker is surprised, right? And I'm like, all right, no big deal. So the number one thing is that be patient, put your blinders on and just go, something, I'm going to put 12 months and I'm going to go through as many deals as I can. I'm going to put in 10 hours a week for however many weeks besides when you're on vacation, whatever it is, and you will find a deal. The first one's always the hardest. You may find it on number 20. You may find it on number 40. You may find it on number 60. You just don't know, right? When that one's actually going to pop for you. So then one mistake I've seen is that people buy too fast because they think, well, this one is the best one I've seen in the last 18. It doesn't match what James and Nicole taught me, but I'm tired of looking, so I'm going to force this one through, right? So they buy wrong. The second thing I think people do is they massage the numbers, right? and they go, well, okay, it doesn't work at this interest rate, but if I could get somebody to loan me the money at 3%, it would work, right? Or if I could raise the rents by $1,000 a month or something, I mean, not that crazy, right? But people start to massage the numbers and they're not conservative anymore in their underwriting. So they end up getting into a bad deal. And the third thing really is, shorten your learning curve. Don't with anything you do, if you're going to be an athlete, if you're going to get into real estate, if you're going to, my daughter is a elementary school music teacher, no one just says, okay, great, I'm going to grab a saxophone and I'll be able to play, right? You take lessons, you learn as you go, right? Even though some of the elementary school kids think they can. But you need to learn, right? So obviously we think we have the best course, the best value, but you don't have to take it from us. Just get educated, because I can't tell you how many people have come to me afterwards and said, what do you think of this deal? I'm like, oh my God, this is a horrible deal. And they lose money. And they could have taken a course, from somebody that knew what they were doing and made a lot of money and not lost money and time, right? So those are three main things, right? Being too jumping the gun, not being patient. Number two, massaging the numbers so they work the way you want them to work, and not getting some level of education or knowledge to make sure that you do it right and you make money. Does that answer your question?
That's a great point. Great question. Great answers. And you're absolutely right with getting the right coaches and the right people to teach you. Like you and Nicole, you do things the right way. You're conservative. It's not all about the money for you. And there's so many teachers out there that teach and they're not practitioners. And you guys are in the fields, investing and actually doing it. So, and you do care about people. So you guys are the perfect people to learn from and get better. And even if you were saying beginners, but even if you've been investing in multifamily for a long time, there's still so much more information out there that you guys have that people could really take advantage of the courses.
No, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And it is funny because, I'm still a student, right? I sometimes listen to, podcasts or webinars, and sometimes Nicole says something, and I'm like, I have never heard you say that before. Some kind of, off the wall kind of creative financing thing that she came up with. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to write that down. And there have been times when she's been teaching Tuesdays. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, or, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. So yeah, just learning from others, just like, I know Emma joined the academy because obviously she felt very highly of the teachings that you guys do and the teachings on the academy and stuff like that. So I think we're all kind of built the same way, that we just, people helped us. So we're trying to pay it forward and help other people as well.
Absolutely. And that is, I mean, we all are learning all the time, continuing to learn, especially with real estate. You have to stay on top of the current trends and look at the future.
Right.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely. I had heard something about that Fannie Mae came out with a 5% loan for multifamily, which I have not checked. So don't go to your broker and say, hey, I heard I can do this, for multifamily. I heard it. I have to check on it or whatever it is. But, you never know. To your point, things are always changing and you want to be ahead of the curve, not under it. Right. So. Anybody else?
You mentioned that there are many opportunities around for duplexes or smaller units. And I'm looking on MLS, for example. I don't see any. I'm sure I'm doing something wrong. But if I'm looking at the Anne Arundel County or Baltimore area, are you referring to that area or other areas?
So I live in Maryland, just like you do. And just the MLS, I think, covers all of Maryland, part of Virginia, part of Pennsylvania. Is that right?
Yes, the one that I have access to.
Okay. So they're on there. I mean, I've seen them before. So I'm not sure what the search parameters are. Maybe there's another realtor that has multifamily experience that could share that with you.
Okay.
I could do that. I have other realtors do it for me when I'm looking for stuff. But I know they're on there. It just
Okay.
search
Might be
on-
the setting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
And you're like a neighbor. If you need help with one of those, just call me. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Hey, James, I looked up on that Fannie Mae. So that 5% down, it started in November of 23.
Okay.
And it's so 5% down, but it's for owner occupied,
Okay.
2, 3, and 4 unit homes.
Okay. All right. So duplex, triplex, quads and stuff like that. So that's still pretty good. 5% down. You live in one, the other people are paying your rent, and you're probably making money if you're at, you only had to put 5% down.
Correct. Yep.
That's pretty incredible. Thanks for looking that up. So
Indeed.
cool.
I'm going to read more about it, but of course, yeah.
You mean they won't give you 5% down like on a 100 unit? What's up with that?
Yeah, I know, right? That would be great.
Yeah, that would be nice. So Ernie, are you flying up on this plane up to the event?
That's it's yeah, working on it. I actually go to another event within like 2 days before that, so
Right.
I have to finagle the wife and in situations, but yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, very cool.
If not, it'll be one of those virtual ones I will do for sure if that's the case.
Okay, yeah, no, whatever we can do to help you, man. Absolutely. So you kind of look like Jeff Bezos there. I don't know that, with the sunglasses on and stuff like that. I don't know if that's a compliment or not a compliment, but
Well, I mean, we go to the same barber, so I mean, I look alike
oh,
people.
there you go. I've thought about doing that sometimes. I'm just like, it must be so much easier. You just get up in the morning, you're like done. You don't have to mess with, pulling your hair and all that. other stuff.
You always have bad hair days, so it's,
Right.
you can already get that out of the way.
Exactly. So, anybody else? We got a few minutes. Actually, we have 20 minutes left. So to ask any questions you'd like.
How long did it take you to find your first multifamily deal? And what were some of the good things you did and mistakes you made, or walk us through your first deal?
So I was I was a little different. I came out hot and bought something very large with Nicole first year. And a lot of work. But I think what I learned on that first deal to this day is still something that I look back on and go, something, I learned this lesson there, right? I learned about due diligence walking through, hundreds of mobile homes. We bought mobile home parks, right? In terms of how to actually look at that, how to underwrite properly so it actually made sense. I learned stuff that, something, if you don't ask, you don't get, don't, and you need to look at what the person's why is for why they're selling and trying to address that need specifically. Now some stuff, or some of the bigger stuff or whatever it is, they're just selling it, right? But a lot of times with some of the smaller ones, they want, hey, I just want, cash flow and I'm tired of being a landlord, or, something I really only need 20 grand, but then if you can pay me, $5,000 a month for the next 20 years, I'm happy. Or, there's all sorts of different situations that people are in. So we very much learned that as well. And one of the things I learned is that make sure that if you get it, this has not Nicole, okay, I'm not talking about her, obviously, but if you get into a deal with someone, make sure they have the same work ethic that you do. Because there's nothing worse than checks coming in, but just a couple of us are doing all the work after a year. So but yeah, we got it through a broker. It was not local, it was in Georgia. 11.5 hour drive each way. Nicole does not like to fly, so we drove back and forth every time. And I think that if she could drive to Uruguay, where she went for some business last month, I think she would drive. It's just an amazing opportunity. I think you always remember your first one, just because you're kind of in that learning phase. Everything's new to you, kind of thing. And you probably learn the most on your first one as well, kind of thing. So that's kind of how I started. But and then I know, let's see, Gilberto. I don't know. Do you guys know Gilberto? Is he from JT or no?
He's a friend of mine.
Oh, is he? Okay, good deal.
He goes by Hill.
Hill? Okay. He's obviously Irish with that name, right? Is that right?
No. He's from the land down south.
Okay, all right, good deal. We can all have
Hey, how you guys doing?
good. How are you?
Good, good, thank you.
Uh-huh. First time here, I guess, right?
Yes, yes. Ernie's
Where
doing
do you?
great social media. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
I was just going through social media. I noticed that Ernie posted something, so I was interested in what the group was all about, and I'm just more curious and interested in learning. So thanks for
Okay.
the opportunity to be part of it.
Awesome. Where do you live down in? Is it Charlotte?
Yes.
Okay. Charlotte boomed for a long time. I guess it's still booming now.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things that it's constantly going through those cycles. We've don't get hit as bad as a lot of other economies just because we're the second largest banking. But you know, so there is that regression a little bit, but for the most part, it stays in the growth phase.
Right.
We get about 140, 150 people a day moving in.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. I do remember the first time actually I flew into North Carolina. I flew into Raleigh, first time I'd ever been down there. And I got there early and the I don't know what it was, Hertz Enterprise or whatever desk was closed, but the woman was there. And oh my God, she talked to me for like an hour. She was like the most pleasant person. And I can just imagine up here at BWI, they'd just be like, you know, something, go sit in the corner. I don't want to talk to you. This woman was so, and everybody that I've met, I know you guys, I'm sure have, you know, not so nice people, whatever it is, but almost everybody that I spoke to was just really, really nice, very pleasant, outgoing, you know. It's a great place.
Yeah, I've been down here for a minute. I've been down here since 97.
Oh wow, okay. A little bit longer in a minute, so.
Yeah. I think I've been around for more than even some Charlotteans.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I know that Raleigh has, where did this guy live? I'm trying to think of the town, the Cary, I think. Is that part of Raleigh, the north part of Raleigh, I think?
Yeah, it's close to Raleigh area there.
It's something, so many people moved down there from the north that they had some sort of acronym for it, like, you know, fence around the Yankees or something like that they came up with just for Cary itself, because so many people relocated down there. So that's good stuff. All right. If we're at 7:16, Jane, Sharon, if you don't get any questions, do you want to start your gig early or do you want to wait all the way through?
Well, if Ernie wants to start early, we can. What do you think, Ernie?
Well, if I can get the microphone to work, I'd be good. Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah, maybe we'll take questions for a little bit, just in
Yeah.
case people are gonna jump on at 7:30. We don't want
Okay.
to miss all this.
We can.
Take questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's-
Residential.
Yeah, when we're talking about the multifamily space, I've not jumped into that segment yet, but that's kind of where things are progressing to. And you know, we're looking at now other markets, other than like the North Carolina, getting into kind of the Pennsylvanias, Ohio's. Is there any places that you say don't go invest in necessarily because of maybe you know, of the cities or towns or like states or the regulations? And is there any places
Baltimore.
that you say
What?
I said Baltimore.
Baltimore, don't invest in Baltimore?
Just kidding.
It is pretty funny. I was talking to these guys from the West Coast today, and they invest in the Sun Belt, right? But they are thinking about investing up here, but they're scared of the blue states, right? So I guess right off the top, if you can invest in a red state, usually the laws are more catered to business owners and landlords and stuff like that. However, that doesn't mean that you can't do really, really well in blue states. You just have to adapt your risk assessment and underwrite in the proper way. And like anything else that we keep talking about and hammering all the time, when you get into those states where maybe they can't evict somebody in 30 days, it takes a little bit longer. Property management is key. You definitely want to have somebody that's on the ball, knows exactly what the process is, and if someone does not pay and they have to remove them to get them out quickly. So yeah, it's interesting because I've always said, Baltimore City, that's just crazy. I don't want to do that or whatever it is. The last 3 deals people have sent me have been in Baltimore City. So I have to underwrite them in a special way. But I think that it's the basic stuff that you're looking for, right? Is the population going up or is it going down, right? I don't mind stable marketplaces. I don't have to have an expanding marketplace. We've done really well just with stable markets. If it's going down, then obviously your tenants are leaving, so you don't want to do that. I would not go into an area that has maybe just one main employer. I can't remember. I think it's down where you guys are in North or South Carolina or something like that, where Ford, I guess, was going to build this huge battery plant. A lot of people bought property down there thinking that, okay, this is going to be great. I'm going to build something, whatever it is. And then Ford pulled the plug and there's really no other industry down there from what I understand. So if you just have one employer and the employer shuts down and doesn't show up, it can really, really hurt you. So, we don't like to be in an area that has 30 to 40% somewhere in there of the economy is dominated by one industry or one company, because you can get really hurt that way. If you're going to look on the other side, things to look for are stuff that is kind of recession proof. So places that have local government, places that have a big health industry, places that have, and that might be changing now, but places usually that have universities and stuff like that are pretty stable. They don't go up too much, they don't go down too much, they're just kind of slowly chugging along. And then you have to decide, some places, the cost of living, and I can't remember, there's actually a tracker for it. I can't remember exactly, the affordability index, I think it's what it's called, where you can go one place and, people can afford a certain amount, and you go other places and they can't afford anything, right? So one of the things that we teach is when you go and you look at a market, right, and you decide, okay, the average income here is 40 grand a year, let's call it, right? And my rents are $700 a month. I'm totally making this up. I don't know what the numbers are, whatever. So total example, right? So 40 grand a year and the rents are $700 a month. And I know that I can, put in, nicer appliances, some sort of vinyl flooring, change the paint or whatever it may be, and I can raise the rent $300, right? I'm going to start charging $1,000 a month, right? But when you look at it and you figure out, right, what a leasing agent looks for in terms of affordability, right, for who can actually rent that apartment, a person, and I don't know the ratios right now, but a person making $40,000 a year may not qualify for your apartment if you're renting it for $1,000 a month, right? So you want to be careful that you don't overprice the economy for your neighborhood, if you will. I've seen a lot of people do that and get burned really badly, because, they got a great product, but no one can afford to live there, kind of thing. So I don't know if that helps, kind of a little bit all over the place, but different things that we've learned over time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for, let's just say for a beginner, is it, I guess, what's the better way of attacking it? Is it, do you start your own LLC first, or do you kind of just do it as your own personal property before you kind of like, what is, I guess, the better route? And secondly, it sound like a key thing for this is also like, no matter what type of house you're looking for, it's the neighborhood sound like it's pretty important as well. Like that's what, I guess,
Yep.
from what you were.
Sure. So the two things, I'll do the second one first. So the neighborhood is very important, right? So we tell people, first go online to like justice.org or justice maps or whatever it is, or crime.org or whatever it may be, kind of check out the neighborhood. We saw a really nice looking property in I can't remember, somewhere in Richmond, and we looked it up and there'd been like 3 shootings the week before or something like that. So obviously not a place we want to go to. But the old adage is you can always change the property, you can never change the neighborhood, right? So neighborhood is really, really important. And I tell people, you know, something, if you're looking, even if it's a single family home or a 100-unit property, right? Go during the week, during the day, go in during the week at night. Go on the weekend during the day and go on the weekend at night, because there's different reflections of what the environment is in that neighborhood at different times of the week and different times of the day. If there is some sort of convenience store like a 7-Eleven or a gas station, you know, with one of those shops or whatever it is, sometimes we'll drive by there and just kind of hang out in the parking lot for, you know, a couple hours or whatever it is and see what the clientele looks like. And if we feel like, you know, something, this is great, you know, working class or whatever it is, no big deal. But if I see like 2 drug deals go down in the parking lot, I'm probably not going to buy in that area. And then in terms of your first question, whether to buy in your own personal name or an LLC, depending on what you want to buy, the fallback answer is never buy in your own name, right? That's the fallback answer. Because if you buy in your own name and somebody comes out front and slips, and you don't have enough insurance, they're coming after you and your family, right? And that income. If you have an LLC, right, they can, and you do it properly, right, they can come after the value in the LLC. But again, if you do it properly, they can't touch anything outside of that LLC. So you're much, much safer with an LLC. Now, if you're going to go get one of these Fannie Mae 5% loans on a fourplex or something like that, and your mortgage broker can't figure out how to actually get that done in an LLC, you could buy it in your own name. I would just recommend you get really, really high levels of insurance just to be safe. You know, even if you pay more or whatever it is, just the fact that you can just sleep at night and go, you know something, I'm totally covered, is worth its weight in gold. It really, and I will guarantee you, not to scare anybody, but at some point, if you're in this business long enough, someone will sue you. I mean, it's part of the game, right? It's going to happen, right? It's never pleasant, but if you go into the game knowing that, you know something, as long as I mitigate the risk by having really good insurance and really good attorneys, all good. So I don't know. Does that help?
Yes, that helps. And so let's say the latter where you do buy it in your own name, and then one decide, okay, I want to turn it to an investment property. So in that case, it's like you again, it go back to the same thing where you want to like make sure that property transferred into an LLC, or like you can't really use it as a personal individual. I guess that's going to kind of affect like financing and stuff like that with like banks and stuff like that.
It's funny because Joanna, who's on this call, was just asking about that a month ago or so ago. So there are ways to do it. Usually not in the place that you live, but if you move out, right? So like you have I don't know, a 3-bedroom house that you're renting rooms out or something like that, right? And it's in your personal name, and then you move out, but you want to keep that as a rental property. There are ways that you can legally convert that, basically take it out of your name, if you will, and not be liable for it. But you'd have to get with, an attorney and a CPA to kind of have them give you guidance. I'm not an attorney and I'm not a CPA. There are ways to do it. But usually it's after you move out. And in the meantime, if you're in there, just get really, really good insurance if it's in your name still.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
James, I have a question to add on to that. How do you say your name? Sayun? Did
Shown?
you?
Yeah,
Shaun. Okay. So I was wondering, so the issue of taking something out of your name. So let's say it's not in an LLC, and you change it over, you put it into a LLC, but can't they just go down to the courthouse and see the trail of the property, or look at the deeds? You can pull up people's deeds and stuff like that. So it doesn't sound I mean, I know it's limited liability, but it sounds like it's easy to jump into the person's veil or jump through it.
So that's probably not a topic for this.
Oh, okay. I'll ask it at the class. I'll ask it at the 4-day thing.
Okay, all right, probably a better idea. Thank you,
All
Charlene.
right.
All right, so we're at 7:28. If anyone has one last question, and then we'll turn it over to Ernie, Jane, and Sharon.